All right, today we're tackling a real puzzle, something that completely blurs the line between ancient myth and modern science. We're talking about the Sirius secret. And it all boils down to this one mind-bending question. How did an ancient tribe describe a star they couldn't possibly see? I mean, a star that's totally invisible to the naked eye. This whole thing really makes you question what we think we know about history, right?
And this is where it gets wild. You've got the ancient Dogon tradition on one side, saying they knew about this invisible star for ages. And then, on the other side, you have modern astronomy, which didn't even snap a picture of it until 1970. That huge time gap? That's the core of the mystery right there.
Okay, so let's dive in. We need to talk about the Dogon people of Mali. They're a tribe in West Africa, and their traditions are incredibly deep and complex. But right at the center of it all is something that's been called an impossible star map.
So here's the kicker. The Dogon people have all this detailed information about a star called Sirius B. Now, what's the big deal? Well, Sirius B is this tiny little white dwarf star that hangs out next to Sirius A, the brightest star we can see. But here's the thing. There is no way you can see Sirius B without a really powerful telescope. Just impossible. So the million-dollar question is, if they couldn't see it, how in the world did they know about it? Well, the Dogon have an answer. And honestly, their explanation might be even crazier than the puzzle itself. They say the knowledge was a gift from teachers who came from the stars. Yeah, you heard that right. Their tradition tells of these amphibious beings, sort of the gods, called the Nommo. The story goes that ages ago, they came down from the Sirius star system to give this knowledge to humanity. The myth even says they surfed on fire to get here. Pretty epic, right? And we're not talking about vague legends here. The knowledge they claimed to have was shockingly specific. They knew Sirius B existed, for one. They knew it had about a 50-year orbit around the main star Sirius A. And get this, they even described it as being incredibly small and super dense. All of these are things that, modern science eventually proved to be true.
Okay, so for hundreds of years, this was just a myth, right? A cool story from an African tribe. But this is where things take a really weird turn, because eventually our own science started to catch up, and that's when the timeline gets, well, paradoxical.
So just look at how this plays out. The Dogon tradition, it's ancient. We're talking way back. But it's not until 1862 that an astronomer with a telescope finally spots Sirius B. Fast forward to the 1930s, and some French anthropologists are the first to write down what the Dogon know. But we didn't even get a picture of the star until 1970. Think about that. The Dogon were talking about this thing centuries before we had any proof it even existed.
All right, I know what you're thinking. Alien teachers. But hold on. Before we go all in on that, there's of course a much more down-to-earth, skeptical take on all this. What if it's all just one big, modern misunderstanding? The skeptical argument centers on this idea called cultural contamination. Basically, the theory goes like this. Someone from the outside world, maybe a missionary or maybe even those anthropologists from the 1930s, could have visited the Dogon. They might have mentioned the new scientific discovery of Sirius B. And then the Dogon, who already had a bunch of myths about Sirius, just blended that new information into their old stories. Makes a certain kind of sense, right?
So that leaves us with two main theories battling it out. On one side, you have the extraterrestrial gift idea that the Nommo were real aliens who shared their knowledge, and on the other, you have the modern contamination theory that the Dogon just learned it from visitors in the 20th century. And you have to admit, either way you slice it, it's a pretty extraordinary story.
And so, here we are. Even with these two very different explanations on the table, the Sirius secret is still, well, a secret. It's this incredible mystery that's just stuck right there, caught between ancient belief and modern science. Look, there's no simple solution here. What we're left with are two really mind-blowing possibilities. Either we had visitors from the stars who left us a little cosmic roadmap, or we have a really fascinating and kind of profound example of how stories and cultures can mix in ways we never expected. So that leaves us with the final question, really. What's the real story behind the Dogon's impossible knowledge? Is it ancient wisdom that we just don't understand? Is it the smoking gun for alien contact? Or is it all just one giant cosmic coincidence? For now, I guess the answer is still up there, hidden in the stars.